The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and with a quick glance, I saw it. Her message preview. My heart stopped. My stomach churned. The words I saw were like a punch to the gut. I can't wait to see you tonight. I'll be waiting for you, just like always. My mind went blank. I couldn't even hear the sound of her coming out of the bathroom, fresh from her shower. The walls felt like they were closing in around me. I had always suspected something was off, but now the truth was staring me right in the face, clear as day. I was staring at the screen, trembling, my thoughts racing. Rick. I knew that name. She had talked about him, always so casually, so dismissively. Just a colleague, she'd said. A friend from work. But this was no friendship. This was something else entirely. As Anna walked into the room, humming like everything was normal, she didn't notice my face. My silence. I could barely catch my breath as I stood frozen, the phone still in my hand. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But part of me, the part that still loved her, was frozen in disbelief. How could this be real? How could the woman I married, the woman who vowed to share her life with me, be betraying me? Babe, you okay? Her voice was too sweet, too rehearsed. She didn't even see it, the storm that had just swept through my mind. I tossed the phone on the table, locking eyes with her, heart pounding. Who's Rick? The question burned in my throat. I had no idea how I was going to react after what I'd just seen, but I had to know. The color drained from her face. For a moment, there was only silence, the air thick with tension. She opened her mouth, her lips trembling, but no sound came out. She couldn't even come up with a good lie. Her eyes darted to the floor, then back to me, and finally, she spoke. Oh my God, it's not what you think. She tried to smile, but the words she was about to say felt like an empty script, something she had rehearsed 100 times before. But I wasn't going to buy it. Not this time. I was done with the lies. The silence in the room was suffocating. I couldn't take my eyes off Anna, waiting for her to offer an explanation, something that could somehow make sense of the mess she'd gotten herself into. But she stood there, fidgeting, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to make her expression seem casual, like this was all nothing but a misunderstanding. I wasn't buying it. The sting of betrayal burned through me, and the anger inside me started to boil. I'd always trusted her, believed in her. But now, that trust felt like a distant memory, something that had been ripped away from me in the blink of an eye. You're not even going to try to explain, are you? I finally said, my voice tight with frustration. I could feel my heartbeat in my chest, pounding like a drum. It was a sensation I had never known before, this raw, intense anger mixed with a deep sense of disbelief. Anna's lips parted as if she was about to say something, but she hesitated, her eyes darting everywhere but to me. Who is he, Anna? I interrupted, cutting her off. Tell me the truth. No more lies. I saw the message. You can't talk your way out of this one. Her face turned pale, and I could see her processing her next words. Her mind was racing, trying to come up with something, anything, to make the situation less damning. But I could see through it. The tension in her shoulders, the nervous shifting of her feet. She was guilty, and I was done playing games. I'm not going to lie, okay? She finally said, her voice almost a whisper. Rick, he's not just a colleague. He's someone I've been seeing for a while. There it was. The words hung in the air like a cold gust of wind. My stomach lurched, and a wave of nausea hit me. The woman I thought I knew, my wife, my partner, had been seeing another man behind my back. How long had it been going on? How many times had I been blind to the signs? Seeing him. I repeated, my voice barely audible. You've been with him, haven't you? All this time, while I've been here, thinking everything was fine. My chest tightened as I spoke, each word a stab to my heart. How could you do this to me, Anna? Her face softened for a moment, like she was trying to show some semblance of remorse. But it was a fake attempt, a mask she was putting on because she knew she had to. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, she said, her voice shaking. I never meant for you to find out like this. Then why didn't you stop it? I shot back, my anger bubbling over. Why didn't you tell me? I deserve to know. All this time, I've been loyal to you, and you were out there, lying to me. And for what? A few moments of thrill? A chance to feel wanted by someone else? Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't move me. Not anymore. It wasn't like that, she pleaded, stepping toward me, her voice trembling. It's complicated, okay? I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, Anna. You really did, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. You shattered everything. I can't look at you the same way anymore. All those years of building this life together, it's all been a lie. She reached out for me, but I pulled away. I didn't want her touch. Not now. Not after everything she'd done. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I know it's a mess. I know I messed up, but please, you have to understand, this isn't all black and white. It's not just my fault. I couldn't believe it. After everything, she still couldn't take responsibility for her actions. She was trying to paint herself as the victim here, as if I should somehow pity her. But there was no sympathy left in me. No, Anna, I said, my voice rising. You don't get to play the victim. You made a choice. You chose him. You chose to betray me. And now, you have to face the consequences of that. For a brief moment, her facade cracked, and I saw the guilt in her eyes. But it was too late. The damage had already been done, and no amount of tears or excuses could erase the fact that she had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I don't know what to do anymore, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I love you, but I don't know if I can just walk away from Rick. The words stung like 1,000 needles. Love? She loved me? How could she say that after everything? How could she still use that word so freely after she'd torn apart the trust one had in her? I can't do this, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. I can't stand here and listen to you make excuses for this. I don't know who you are anymore, Anna. And I don't think I want to. She stood there, her shoulders sagging, as if the weight of my words had finally started to sink in. But it didn't matter. It was too late for apologies, too late for explanations. She had already chosen her path, and now it was time for me to choose mine. The days that followed were a blur. Every moment felt like I was moving through thick fog, the world around me muffled and distant. I couldn't escape the feeling that everything I had once believed in had been destroyed in an instant. I couldn't look at Anna the same way anymore. Every time I saw her, I saw the lies, the betrayal. It was as if her face was a mask that no longer belonged to the woman I married. The woman who had once been my best friend, the person I had trusted more than anyone else in the world. Every time I tried to speak to her, the words got stuck in my throat. The anger was still there, but it was buried deep, replaced by a deep sadness that I couldn't shake. I kept replaying the moments in my head, the small things I had missed, the signs I had ignored. How had I been so blind? For weeks, I had been pretending everything was fine. The dinners, the movie nights, the plans for the future. All of it felt like a joke now. A facade. But it wasn't just the betrayal that stung. It was the fact that I had given her everything, my trust, my heart, my future. I had built my life around her, and now it was all slipping through my fingers. Anna kept apologizing. Every time I saw her, she'd beg me to listen, to understand, to give her another chance. She claimed that it had been a mistake, that she had never meant to hurt me, but I wasn't sure if I believed her anymore. The woman I had once known had become a stranger. One night, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as she spoke. I don't know what's wrong with me, I really don't. I never wanted to lose you. I love you, I swear. It's just that, with Rick, I felt alive again. I felt like someone really saw me. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she had hurt me, how much her words had destroyed me. But instead, I stayed quiet, staring at her. The more she spoke, the more her excuses seemed to pile on top of each other, until they all sounded hollow, empty. You think I don't see that? I asked, finally breaking the silence. You think I don't know that this isn't about Rick? This is about you choosing to betray me, choosing to disrespect everything we had. And you're still sitting here telling me how much you love me? It's too late for that, Anna. You don't get to say you love me after everything you've done. Her face crumpled as she started to cry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose you, but I can't just pretend nothing happened. And there it was. She was still thinking about herself, still making excuses. I stood up from the table, my chest tight with emotion. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can go on pretending like nothing's wrong. You broke me, Anna. You broke me in a way I don't know how to fix. She reached out, but I stepped back, unable to let her touch me. Please, she whispered. Don't leave me. I love you. I looked at her, the woman I once knew, the woman I had promised to spend my life with. I could see the tears in her eyes, but I couldn't let them move me. It wasn't enough anymore. She had betrayed me in the most intimate way, and no amount of crying or begging was going to change that. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words just wouldn't come. What was there left to say? For the next few days, I stayed away. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to feel her presence. The house felt suffocating, like a place that no longer belonged to either of us. Everywhere I went, memories of her haunted me, of our first date, our wedding day, the trips we'd taken together. They were all tainted now, ruined by the reality that she had been hiding someone else behind my back. But what hurt the most wasn't just the affair. It was the fact that she had never truly been honest with me. The lies, the deceit, the way she pretended everything was fine while she was sneaking around behind my back. It felt like a betrayal of everything I had believed in. I spent days drowning in my thoughts, wondering if I could ever move past this. Could I ever look at her again and feel the same way? Could I ever trust her? I didn't have the answers. All I knew was that I was broken, and nothing could fix it, not her tears, not her apologies, not the empty promises she kept making. I finally made the decision to see a lawyer. I had to face reality, even if it hurt. It was time to stop pretending everything was okay. I couldn't stay in this relationship, not when every moment with her felt like a reminder of the lies she had told. But even as I made the decision to move forward, a part of me still wanted to believe that we could fix things. That maybe, just maybe, we could go back to the way things were before everything fell apart. But deep down, I knew that wasn't possible. Trust, once broken, was not easily rebuilt. The days were dragging by, and with each passing moment, the weight of my decision felt heavier. I could hear Anna's voice echoing in my head, her apologies and pleas blending into a constant hum that wouldn't let me think straight. I felt suffocated, as though I was stuck in a never-ending cycle of confusion and pain. Part of me still wanted to hold on, to try to salvage whatever was left of us, but another part knew that I couldn't go back to that place. Not after everything. I woke up every morning with a knot in my stomach, unsure of how to start the day. When I looked at Anna, I saw her, the woman who had betrayed me. The woman who had spent months hiding another life from me. I tried to ignore it, to pretend that things were normal, but every time I saw her, I was reminded of the damage she had done. The hardest part was seeing her try so hard to make it right. She would leave me notes around the house, things like, "I'm sorry," written on scraps of paper, or she would try to start conversations, asking me if we could talk things through. I knew she was hurting, but her pain didn't change the fact that she had chosen to cheat on me. I could see the tears in her eyes when she tried to apologize, but I couldn't let that influence me anymore. She had cried too many times, promised me too many things, but the truth was, none of it mattered. She had broken my trust in a way that couldn't be repaired. It was that realization that made me sit down with her one evening, my mind made up. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly walking on eggshells, afraid of what new lie or betrayal might come next. "I've made a decision," I said, my voice calm but firm. Anna looked up at me, her eyes wide with fear. I knew she thought that maybe, just maybe, I would take her back, that we could move past this and rebuild. But I wasn't going to lie to myself. I wasn't going to let the guilt of her tears cloud my judgment. "Are you going to leave me?" she asked, her voice breaking as the tears welled up in her eyes again. "I don't know what's left here, Anna," I replied, the words catching in my throat. "You've destroyed everything. The trust we built, the life we created, it's all gone. And I can't just ignore that. I can't pretend I don't know what you've done. I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she pleaded, stepping closer to me. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, just let me explain. Let me fix this. I love you." Her words were empty now. I had heard them too many times. It didn't matter how many times she said she loved me. It was the actions that spoke louder than anything else. And her actions had betrayed me. "You don't understand," I said, shaking my head. "You don't get it. You love me, but you don't respect me. If you really loved me, you would never have done this to me." "I was confused," she whispered. "I didn't know what I wanted. I thought I was missing something, and then I found it in Rick. I thought it would make me feel whole again, but now I see how wrong I was. I just didn't know how to stop." Her explanation did nothing for me anymore. It felt like a rehearsed script, something she had practiced in her head, but it didn't change the truth. She had made a choice, and that choice was to betray me. No amount of explaining or apologizing could erase that. "I can't live like this," I said, the finality of my words sinking in. "I can't pretend anymore. I can't keep wondering if I'm enough for you. You need to figure things out on your own, Anna. But I can't be a part of it anymore." The silence between us was deafening. She stood there, frozen, her face a mixture of shock, sorrow, and disbelief. I saw her reach out again, but I pulled back, the distance between us feeling more like an ocean than just a few feet. "I'm sorry, but I'm done," I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. But they were the truth. I had tried for so long to salvage what we had, but I had nothing left to give. The emotional toll of all the lies had drained me, and I knew it was time to let go. Anna's shoulders slumped, and she turned away from me, her back facing me as she wiped away the tears. It hurt to see her like this, but I couldn't let my heart soften. She had made her choices, and now it was time for me to make mine. The decision was made, but the aftermath felt like a storm. I could feel the weight of it in the pit of my stomach every time I saw her. There was no anger left in me, just sadness, regret, and the overwhelming sense that I had lost something I could never get back. In the days that followed, I took steps to move forward. I called a lawyer and started the process of separation. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't one I made lightly. But the truth was, I couldn't stay in this toxic, broken relationship any longer. It wasn't healthy for either of us. I moved out of the house we had shared. I found a small apartment on the other side of town and began the process of rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I felt completely alone, like I had nothing left. But I knew I couldn't keep going back to the past. I had to learn to move forward. And as the days passed, the pain slowly started to fade, replaced by a quiet acceptance. I realized that I had been holding on to a version of Anna that no longer existed. The woman I had loved was gone, and it was time to face the future without her. The weeks after I left the house felt like an endless blur. I moved into the apartment and tried to settle into this new reality, but it was far from easy. The apartment was small, and the walls felt too quiet, too empty. I spent most of my time at work or at the gym, anything to avoid being alone with my thoughts. Being by myself felt like a constant reminder of everything I had lost. I wasn't just mourning the end of my marriage. I was mourning the person I had trusted most in the world, the person I thought I would grow old with. Every memory, every inside joke we shared, every moment of intimacy gone. It was hard to escape the constant replay of the last few months, the lies, the deceit, the way Anna had played me for a fool. I tried to move forward. I forced myself to go out with friends, to meet new people. But every time I saw a couple holding hands or laughing together, it felt like a knife in my chest. It was like the world was reminding me of what I would never have again. Trust, love, companionship, all of it seemed so far out of reach now. I went on a few dates, but nothing ever felt right. I found myself comparing every woman to Anna. And it wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the realization that I would never feel that same connection with anyone else. I had given Anna my heart, my trust, and now it felt like there was nothing left of me to give. And then there was Anna. She kept calling, texting, emailing. Every day, she would send me messages begging for another chance. At first, I ignored them. I couldn't bring myself to read her words. But eventually, curiosity got the best of me, and I read one of her messages. Please, I need to talk. I can't live with myself knowing I've hurt you like this. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Please give me a chance to fix this. I'm sorry. I love you. Please come back. I felt nothing when I read her words. No anger, no sadness, just a deep, empty feeling. She had already said all of this before. The words had lost their meaning. I had already heard the apologies, and they didn't change anything. I wasn't the same person I had been when I was with her. A few days later, I received a call from her. I stared at the phone for a long time before answering. I knew she would be crying, that she would be desperate, but I wasn't ready for the flood of emotions that came rushing through the phone. Please, talk to me, and his voice cracked. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I can't live like this anymore. I can't go on pretending everything is fine. I love you, and I need you to know that. I made a huge mistake, and I want to make it right. I just don't know how. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes, trying to block out the sound of her voice. She was so desperate, so broken, and yet it didn't matter. None of it changed the fact that she had cheated. None of it changed the hurt she had caused me. Anna, I said, my voice calm and firm. You had your chance. You had so many chances, and you chose Rick over me. You made a decision. And now, I'm making mine. There was silence on the other end of the line. I could feel the weight of the moment, the finality of my words. Please don't do this, she begged. I'll do anything. I'll prove to you that I love you. I'll leave Rick. I'll give you everything you need. Just don't walk away from me. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. I can't trust you, Anna. Not anymore. You've broken me in ways I don't even know how to fix. I can't keep living like this, hoping things will magically get better. You've done too much damage. I didn't want to be cruel, but I couldn't keep holding on to something that had already fallen apart. I had to move on, and that meant letting go of her, letting go of the past. You're just going to walk away? She whispered, her voice filled with pain. I already have, I replied. It's over. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace. It was painful, but I knew I had done the right thing. I had to let go. I couldn't keep dragging myself through the wreckage of a relationship that no longer existed. But that peace was short-lived. As much as I wanted to move on, the memories of Anna kept coming back. There were nights when I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the woman I had loved. I missed her laugh, her smile, the way she had held me close. I missed the life we had built together, even though I knew it was all built on lies. It wasn't easy. Every day was a struggle to rebuild myself, to heal from the wounds she had left behind. I started therapy, something I never thought I would need, but it was the only way I knew how to navigate this pain. Slowly, I began to piece myself back together, learning how to trust myself again, how to live for me and not for someone else. The road to healing wasn't quick. It took time, a lot of time, but I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I wasn't the same person I had been before Anna, but I wasn't the broken man I had been after the affair. I was somewhere in between, scarred but not defeated. And as the days passed, I realized something. The worst part of this whole experience wasn't the affair itself. It wasn't even the lies. It was the fact that I had trusted someone with my heart and my soul, and they had shattered it. But I also realized that, in time, I could heal. I would heal. And that was the most important lesson I could take from this. Sometimes, you have to let go of the past in order to move forward. The next few months passed in a haze of awkwardness and self-reflection. I was slowly coming to terms with the fact that I had to start over, that the life I thought I had with Anna was gone forever. The house I had lived in, the plans we had made for the future, everything was in the past, and there was no way to rewind time. I couldn't pretend anymore that there was some chance to fix things, that some magical moment would come where everything would fall back into place. At work, things were busy, which was a good distraction. It gave me the excuse I needed to stay focused on something else besides the emotional mess I had left behind. But even in the rush of deadlines and meetings, there were times when I'd catch myself drifting into thoughts of Anna. I wondered what she was doing, if she was with Rick, or if she was finally understanding the gravity of her actions. But mostly, I found myself thinking about how much of myself I had given to her, how much of my heart and soul I had poured into that relationship. The apartment had become more of a home. I started making it my own. At first, it had felt like a temporary space, something I was only passing through while I figured out my next move. But over time, it became more than that. I decorated it with things I liked, things that made me feel comfortable, things that didn't remind me of Anna. There were no more shared memories here, no more stolen glances or laughter-filled nights. There was just me, a man trying to put the pieces of his life back together. I began working on myself in ways I had never done before. I started reading books about personal growth, about how to move past betrayal and heal from heartbreak. I exercised more, took up hobbies I had long forgotten, and even spent more time with my friends, the ones who had supported me from the start. Slowly, but surely, I felt like I was regaining some semblance of strength. I wasn't the same person I had been, but I was starting to feel like I could be someone new, someone better, someone stronger. But no matter how much time passed, there were still moments when the weight of the past would hit me. I had learned to cope with it, but it wasn't gone. The pain wasn't something that could be erased with time alone. It had to be worked through. And I knew that it wasn't something I could fix in a matter of weeks or even months. There was one evening, about 6 months after I left Anna, when I ran into her at a cafe. I had just finished a long day at work and had stopped for a cup of coffee to unwind. I didn't expect to see her. How could I? She had been completely out of my life for so long. But there she was, sitting at a table by the window, her eyes flicking up when the door opened. For a moment, she just stared at me, like she wasn't sure whether to approach. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the moment. I hadn't seen her in so long, but it felt like nothing had changed. She was still Anna, still the woman who had broken my heart, and yet there was something different about her, something sadder, quieter. She looked like she had been through her own version of hell. I didn't know whether to walk away or stay, but before I could make up my mind, she stood up and came toward me. "Hi," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi," I replied, not sure what else to say. The emotions were swirling inside me, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to confront them. It had been months since we'd spoken, and even though I had moved on, a part of me had never fully let go. I didn't expect to see you here," she continued, looking at me with an almost vulnerable expression. "I've been trying to figure out where you were, what you've been doing, but I didn't want to bother you." "I've been doing okay," I replied, my tone guarded. "Just getting by." Anna nodded, her eyes downcast for a moment. "I know I hurt you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. And I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know that I've spent every day regretting what I did. I think about it constantly, about how I betrayed you, about how much I ruined. I looked at her, taking in the woman who had once been everything to me. There was a part of me that wanted to tell her how much I had suffered, how I had been left in pieces after she walked away. But there was another part that understood that the past could never be changed. She had done what she did, and I had done what I had to do to move forward. I don't want to carry this anger anymore, I said quietly. I don't want to keep looking back at what you did. I've let go of it, Anna. I've had to. It's the only way I can keep moving forward. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had once known, the woman who had loved me, or so I thought. But even that was a distant memory now. I had let go, and in a way, so had she. I know I'll never be able to make it right, she whispered. But I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I hope you find happiness, even if it's not with me. I nodded, not trusting my own voice. There was nothing left to say. I didn't hate her anymore, but I didn't love her either. She had become a chapter in my past, a painful one, but a chapter nonetheless. I have to go, I said softly. Take care of yourself, Anna. And with that, I turned and walked out of the cafe, feeling lighter than I had in months. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't closure. It was just acceptance. I had let go. I had finally accepted that the life I had once known was gone, and that it was okay. The encounter with Anna in the cafe had been an unexpected turning point. I hadn't planned for it, hadn't expected it to affect me the way it did. But as I walked away from that meeting, I realized something important. I had truly let go of the past. It was a strange feeling. For so long, I had been tethered to the ghost of the life I once had, to the woman I had loved with everything I had. But now, with that brief conversation behind me, I felt as though I was free. The weight on my shoulders was gone, and I realized that I had the power to define the next chapter of my life. Over the next few weeks, I focused on rebuilding myself even further. I poured myself into my work, picked up new hobbies, and spent more time with friends. I wasn't rushing into anything, but I was living again. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finding my footing, learning to enjoy the small things in life. I decided to travel. I had always wanted to go to Europe, and I knew that now was the time. It was a leap, a step into something completely new. A chance to rediscover myself in a place far away from everything that reminded me of Anna. The trip was a way to break free from the constraints of the past, to create memories that were mine alone. When I arrived in Rome, everything felt surreal. The city was bustling with energy, and the history that surrounded me made me feel like I was part of something much larger than myself. I spent days wandering the cobblestone streets, visiting ancient ruins, and savoring the delicious food. It wasn't just the sights and sounds that made it special. It was the sense of freedom that came with being in a new place, away from the familiar. One evening, I found myself sitting at a small cafe in Trastevere, a charming neighborhood in Rome, when a woman caught my eye. She was sitting at the table next to mine, reading a book and sipping on a glass of wine. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her green eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. She didn't look up, but there was something about her presence that intrigued me. I tried to focus on my own meal, but my gaze kept drifting back to her. I wasn't looking for anything romantic. In fact, I wasn't even sure I was ready for that. But something about her peaceful solitude caught my attention. She seemed so content, so comfortable in her own skin. After a few minutes, I finally gathered the courage to speak. "Excuse me," I said, my voice hesitant, "but I couldn't help noticing that you're reading The Great Gatsby. It's one of my favorites." She looked up, surprised by my approach. A smile slowly spread across her face. "Really? It's one of mine too." I didn't expect anyone to recognize it. We talked for a while, exchanging thoughts on the book and what it meant to us. It felt easy, comfortable, nothing like the complicated conversations I had had with Anna. We didn't dive into deep personal topics. We simply enjoyed the moment, the simplicity of a shared connection. Her name was Julia, and she was traveling solo, just like me. She had come to Rome for the same reason I had, to escape the monotony of everyday life and find something new, something that would remind her of who she was before the world had its way with her. We continued to meet throughout the week, spending our days exploring the city together. It wasn't anything serious, and I wasn't looking for anything deep, but I couldn't help but feel a spark of connection. Julia was different. She wasn't someone who was going to rush into anything or expect too much from me. She had her own life, her own goals, and she wasn't trying to fill a void in her heart with someone else. It was refreshing. As the week passed, I found myself smiling again. Not the forced smiles I'd given in the months after Anna, but genuine ones. Julia was an easy person to be around. She didn't pressure me, didn't try to make me forget the past. Instead, she let me be who I was, accepting me for exactly where I was in life. And, in turn, I began to realize something important. I didn't need to be with someone to feel whole. I didn't need to find someone to fix me. I was okay on my own. The day before I was set to return to the States, Julia and I sat on the Spanish steps, watching the sunset. It was a beautiful moment, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. I don't know what the future holds, I said to her, but I'm okay with it. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm no longer holding on to the past. Julia looked at me, her eyes full of understanding. That's all you can do, really. Just keep moving forward. You don't have to have it all figured out. Life is about the journey, not the destination. We sat there in silence for a while, just taking in the beauty of the moment. It felt like a new beginning for both of us, like we had both left something behind in the past and were free to move forward without the weight of old mistakes holding us back. When I got back home, I took a deep breath, stepping into my apartment. The space still felt like mine, but now it felt even more like my own. I had made it through the storm, and while the scars of the past would always be there, they no longer defined me. I had healed, or at least I was healing. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was ready for whatever life had in store for me. I still thought about Anna from time to time, but it was different now. I had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine. I couldn't carry the weight of that betrayal forever. It was time to let it go. And so, I moved forward, not with anger or regret, but with hope. The future was waiting, and for the first time in a long time, I was ready to embrace it. As the months went by, I settled into a new rhythm. Life no longer felt like an endless loop of hurt and regret. Slowly, I started to embrace the small joys again, something I hadn't realized I had missed so deeply. The simple things, like a cup of coffee in the morning, a sunset after a long day, or even laughter with friends. For the first time, I felt like I was truly living, not just existing. My job had taken off as well. I was being offered more opportunities, more responsibility. The work was fulfilling, but it also gave me a sense of pride that I hadn't experienced in a long time. I didn't owe anyone anything, and that was liberating. I was no longer defined by my past, by the mistakes Anna and I had made, by the years spent trying to rebuild something that had been broken beyond repair. I was starting to find my own way, on my own terms. But it wasn't just my career that was shifting. I started to focus on the people in my life who mattered. My friends, who had stuck by me during the most difficult times, became even more important to me. They reminded me that I was not alone, that I had value beyond my relationship with Anna. They celebrated my victories and helped me when I felt weak. One evening, a few months after I returned from Rome, I sat down with Mark, my best friend from college. We hadn't talked much lately, but tonight felt different. The years of heartbreak, the silent mourning, all of it had been chipping away at me in ways I hadn't realized. It was time to open up. You know, man, I said as we shared beers on the couch, I never realized how much I was holding on to until I actually let go. Mark took a sip of his beer, nodding. I saw you struggle, man. I knew you were in pain. I just didn't know how much until you started making the changes you needed to make. I kept thinking I had to fix things, you know? I thought if I just talked to Anna enough, if I tried hard enough, things would go back to how they were. I continued, my voice reflective. But I finally realized that wasn't the answer. I can't keep looking back. I can't keep hoping for things that'll never happen. Mark leaned back, clearly understanding. That's part of healing, right? Letting go of the idea that everything can be fixed. Sometimes, you just have to walk away and let things play out the way they were meant to. I nodded. Exactly. I don't know if I'm better yet. I don't think anyone is ever fully better after something like that. But I'm okay now. I'm finally starting to live for myself, not for someone else. The conversation shifted, and for the first time in a long while, I felt lighter. It wasn't just the passing of time that was healing me, it was also the effort I was putting into building my life again, brick by brick. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I found myself growing more comfortable with being alone. Not in the sense that I was closed off or shut down, but in the sense that I no longer defined myself by my relationship status. I wasn't defined by my past with Anna. I was my own person, capable of living a full life on my own. One night, while I was out for a drink with some colleagues, I met someone new. Her name was Claire, and there was something about her that intrigued me. She had a quiet confidence about her, and we found ourselves talking for hours about everything and nothing. At first, I didn't think much of it, just another conversation with a stranger, but the more we talked, the more I realized there was something special there. We had shared interests, a similar sense of humor, and most importantly, a mutual respect for each other. We began to hang out more, casually at first, and then with more intention. But the difference between Claire and Anna was clear from the start. There was no pressure, no need to rush things. We were both in a place where we were open to whatever might come, without the burden of expectations. For the first time in a long while, I felt the spark of something genuine, something I hadn't felt in so long. It wasn't about replacing Anna. It was about opening myself up to new possibilities without the fear of repeating past mistakes. With Claire, I learned what it meant to build a relationship from a place of mutual respect and understanding. She wasn't perfect, and neither was I, but we were both willing to take things slowly and see where they went. It wasn't a rush, and that felt right. As the months passed, I continued to grow in ways I hadn't expected. I became more comfortable with vulnerability, with the idea that it was okay to let someone in again, without the fear of being hurt. I wasn't rushing into anything with Claire, but I knew there was something real there. I didn't need her to fix me. I had already done that on my own. What we shared was something that happened naturally, without the pressure of trying to make it work. One evening, as we sat in a park watching the sunset, Claire turned to me and smiled. "I don't know if you've noticed," she said softly, "but you're different now. You're more at peace with yourself. And it's amazing to see." I smiled back, feeling a deep sense of contentment I hadn't known in a long time. "I think I've finally figured out what I need," I said. "And it's not about finding someone else to make me happy. It's about being happy with myself first." And that was the final lesson I learned through everything I had gone through. Happiness wasn't something you found in someone else. It was something you built from within. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but I had come to a place where I knew that I was enough, just as I was. As I looked ahead, I knew that the road wouldn't always be easy. Life had a way of throwing curveballs, and relationships weren't always simple. But I also knew that I had the strength to face whatever came next. I was no longer afraid to move forward. I was no longer afraid of what I couldn't control. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future.